Hi, I'm Carl Press, a partner at Thoma Bravo. Today on Behind the Deal, we'll unpack the details of our acquisition of Applitools with insights from CEO Alex Berry and co-founder CTO Adam Carmi. Alex, Adam, good to see you guys. Thanks for doing this.
Of course.
Good to see you, Carl.
Adam, maybe I'll start with you. You're one of the co-founders of Applitools. You've been there since the very, very beginning. Maybe talk about, at inception, what was the problem that you were trying to solve? How did you identify that problem? And then how did you go about trying to solve it with what became the Applitools platform?
Sure. A great question, by the way. The Applitools story begins around 15 years ago, long time ago. I was running R&D at a security startup. So just like any other security product, we had a lot of UI with a lot of dashboards and policies. And not only there was a lot of UI to test, this product was rebranded several times and localized to 6 different languages. And although we used test automation with the existing tools that were there at the time, these tools didn't really check the user experience and how the UI was laid out and all the visual aspects of the UI. And we had a small army of testers that used to test these things manually. And believe it or not, it would take them almost a week to go through a full regression testing cycle of the UI, a full week. And at the time, the cool thing was that just came out was doing agile software development. So everyone was talking about how we can shorten the release cycles and doing extreme programming and all of that. And we were excited about it as well. We decided that we want to go through with it, convince the business that it's good for the business. Everyone, all the stakeholders were convinced, and we started working on shortening the release cycles. But we got stuck at 3 months. We couldn't get it any shorter than 3 months, and we wanted to release every week. And this problem intrigued me, and I started getting into computer vision and trying to see if I can emulate the human tester to solve the problem. So I played with it on weekends and late nights. At some point, the company was acquired, and then I started dedicating myself to this problem, started coming up with solutions. Joined my co-workers Moshe and Gil and started a company with them, and here we are today.
That's incredible. Maybe it's a good time to bring Alex into the conversation. Alex, whereas Adam has been there since absolute day one or day zero, you joined a year and a half ago to replace Gil Sever, who was one of Adam's co-founders, to run the company. And it was a very smooth and natural transition from a founder CEO to an outside CEO, but those are never straightforward necessarily. So maybe, Alex, this is a good time to talk about what were some of your early impressions as you joined this organization. You had led many other companies in the past. How is this unique to those experiences?
Yeah, great question. I think it starts for me with the product. And as I started talking with you and got to know the team and Adam in particular, obviously their history and legacy with visual testing, and they created that market. Just the product vision and his vision for the company was what drew me to the business. And then I think it's important, as you mentioned, the smooth transition. That takes a lot of collaboration and willingness on the parts of the founders. I've actually stepped in for a couple of founders in my past lives. And, it starts with a willingness and an enablement of whomever's coming in at the CEO level. And, to Gil's credit, to Adam's credit, and Moshe's credit, they welcomed me. I think they saw the value that I brought to the business and different skill sets than they had. And the collaboration really started from there. And that really made it an easy transition. It's not always easy, as you know.
It isn't. And yet it's gone, I'd say, as smooth as it could have, all things considered. Adam, maybe this is a good time to pull up and just talk at a high level. What products encompass the Applitools platform?
So just as an overview, Applitools provide a test automation platform that is used today by thousands of teams, from small startups to the world's leading brands. By using this platform, teams can test just about any type of application, from web application, mobile application, and desktop application. And the platform provides a premium solution to any testing need, whether it is adding the world's best visual testing capabilities to coded open source test, to providing test automation infrastructure, and even allowing the teams to author tests in plain English, leveraging LLMs through our autonomous testing product.
And I think what Adam is talking about from a product perspective really encompasses what we refer to as our intelligent testing platform. And so when you talk about authoring, validating, executing, and analyzing, to me, that was also what encouraged me to join, because that's the panacea. This unified platform doesn't exist. And traditional testing tools, and not to disparage on our competitors, but there's been folks that have been in this industry for a long time, and the traditional testing tools just can't keep up. Right? There's poor test coverage, there's slow release cycles, there's expensive maintenance. And so our vision, and Adam's vision, is really to create that unified platform that you can go to solve all of those needs. And it's pretty exciting, and it's revolutionizing the way that people test and author and validate their software.
Alex, one of the things you're so good at is spending time with customers and really understanding their pain points and how they perceive ROI from our solutions, and how we can get into these accounts with the so-called thin edge of the wedge of our solution. Maybe talk about the conversations you've been having, even recently on your trip to Asia. You've met with so many of our customers and prospective customers. Talk about what are those customers and prospectives saying about Applitools and about the ROI on our solution.
No, absolutely. So what's really different is, and Adam mentioned this before, is our proprietary large language model for test execution. That separates us. And then the opportunity really on the interactive, flexible test authoring, as we shared. And that's really what we view as our difference. And so I wanted to test this with our customers. So we had just recently gone through and really finalized and enhanced our product roadmap. And so I sat down with customers and went over it with them. And, if you look at from a Applitools perspective, where do we win and who do we go after? A lot of it is the B2B tech. So companies that have complex web applications, SaaS platforms of the like. We also, financial services and regulated industries are areas of opportunity for us that we tend to do very well. And then retail is another key area for us. And so some of those early customers in those we spoke to, and one case in point was I met with Suncorp, which is a large customer in the insurance space and reinsurer in Sydney. And they were one of the first early adopters of autonomous. And one of the things that they were really looking to do was to integrate autonomous into their SDLC and embed it into their CI/CD pipeline. And they really wanted, from their QA testing perspective, they were doing a lot of manual testing. And it was taking them a lot of time to get releases out. And they've implemented that, and they've seen dramatic reduction from going from weeks of development time and getting product out the door to days. And it took them a while to embed that throughout the ecosystem, but we partnered with them. We listened to them. They were, as I mentioned, an early access customer, and have now implemented that across the continuum. And we asked them, what are some of the things that we do better than anyone else? And so they talked about the Applitools value proposition and difference, but they also talked about how the care and feeding the knowledge of our team and our customer support and success, which really stands apart as far as getting people onto the system.
Our thesis when we made the investment 4 years ago, as you know, Adam, is that test automation was going to become increasingly important as the proliferation of both cloud software and also AI began to take flight. What we didn't predict is that AI would soon be authoring code as quickly and as robustly as it is today. That is something that we didn't have in our bingo card.
Well, even when, go back a year and a half when we were talking, the pace of innovation within AI has been, that year and a half might as well be 10 years. And so it just is, it's changed. I think it's something that we're all dealing with as far as the latest releases, the latest buzz and excitement around AI. And I think that's part of the challenge that we're trying to overcome within the industry is there's just a lot of noise. So how do we differentiate ourselves? And what Adam was talking about in the intelligent testing platform and solving those problems, really putting ourselves ahead of the competition with a unique way and revolutionizing the test automation through AI. But it's really it's very fast paced right now.
Yeah. And I have to say that beyond the challenges that Alex mentioned, that are probably felt across all industries, right? There is LLMs influencing and disrupting all markets now. On the other hand, it's an amazing accelerator and opportunity. So first of all, businesses are looking to spend on AI and looking to embrace AI and bring that into their workflows, which we do as a company. This is what we provide. But second, if you look at the long-term play here, I mean, what AI is doing to software development is basically lowering the bar, allowing anyone to write software. And the result of that is that you'll have less capable engineers writing much, much more code, which means that the need to test and validate the result will only increase. And the traditional approaches where you need to write code or test manually just cannot scale. And you have to use AI and you have to use tools like the ones that we provide to be able to accommodate that.
And so going forward, as it requires less and less capability to actually author code and applications, will testing become entirely automated? Will there be some developer interaction with testing? Like, what is the future state of testing application software?
Okay, so first of all, we need to understand at least from the way that we look at it and what we talk with customers about this, because, this thing is new for everyone. So it's very interesting to understand how everyone is thinking about it as not just us. There is one thing that is very disturbing about using the new generation of what we call AI now, which is the large language models for testing, is the problem that it is not accurate and it can hallucinate. Now, testing, it's very important in terms of quality, that you know exactly what it is that you're testing and you know that it works exactly that way. Okay, it's very important. Now, if you just trust an LLM to go through a workflow and maybe it sees a bug and it finds a way to work around it in order to just succeed in the goal that you gave it, to do some action, it just won't report the bug. Or maybe it will hallucinate some different workflow that you didn't intend, and it will tell you that the test has passed, right? These are fundamental problems. Now, because of that, the customers still want to know that tests are deterministic in the sense that they know what coverage that they're getting, and they know for sure that if the test passed, they don't need to test it in any other way. So for that matter, there are two ways for automation. First of all, there could be specific use cases that you can test completely deterministically, like crawling a website, finding any differences from a previous scroll, whether they're in the UI or in the logic. This is something that is complete and won't require any interference, just letting you know that there is a difference and you should look at it and decide whether it's okay or not okay. On the other hand, when it comes to authoring tests, coming up with the test cases, it's okay for the tool to suggest the test for you. It's okay for it to tell you what it's going to do. Customers expect to look at that, approve it, and then they expect this thing to run exactly as it is all the time and not deviate from that, because then they have a basis that they can rely on what gets tested. I hope it answered your question. So it will require involvement, yes. Yeah. With the technology that we have today, it does require involvement, but much less involvement than it used to.
Yeah, I'm not as smart as Adam, but here's how I look at it. I look
few
at,
are, Alex.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
It's hard to be on the same screen with him, but I think I look at it obviously how he explains it, but from a practical business perspective. They're talking about folks are saying, well, we're not going to need as many developers or this, that, and the other. I think the key thing is there's going to be more need for testing because there's going to be more code developed. And so when I look at like where we are in that hype cycle, I think from an automated, autonomous AI testing, it's one of the first real tangible use cases that are going to solve business problems for our clients and do it in a way that they can get away from a manual testing, automate that testing. In fact, I was in Australia this past week and met with one of our banking customers who had just rolled out autonomous to a small team and had such success that they had reduced their cycle times from 50 hours to 5. And this is getting products out the door. And they were then asking us to help them package up a business case and ROI to then go take to the CIO to roll this out over the entire company. Tangible ROI, utilizing autonomous and utilizing AI is something that if you can prove it, because there's a lot of noise and a lot of hype, you're going to be well ahead of the curve. And I think from a testing perspective, it's one of the early applications or use cases that's really going to bear fruit.
Alex, maybe switching gears a little bit, throughout your career in software, you've now worked with a handful of other private equity sponsors. Maybe talk about your experience so far with Thoma Bravo, how it's been different, and why it's obviously, without question, your favorite experience so far.
Yes, no question. I often say that no private equity firm and private equity firms are not created equal. And they all have their positives and they all have their challenges. And I don't say this because working for Thoma Bravo or you, but my experience with TB is that we are the best of both. So there's the engagement and collaboration that I seek with yourself and other members of the TB portfolio. I have great mentors within different CEOs that I reach into to get access and information and help. But the team that we're working with has that balance. And I think that's the best way to describe it. And I think the team that you've accumulated for us to work with are great CEOs that have been there, done that, have the credibility, and just do great work. So I would say TB is the best of all those worlds, kind of the balance between, here's a prescription, here's the experience that we've done, but also letting the management team run the business and own the outcomes.
Yeah. No, that's very kind of you to say. I bet you say that to all the private equity sponsors, don't you?
Not all of them, and I'll leave those ones out. But
yeah.
Yes.
No, that I appreciate that. I'll ask the same question to you, Adam, but in a slightly different way, because part of the story of this transaction, of this investment, is we transitioned Applitools from a venture-backed company to a sponsor-owned company, and that's a meaningful transition. We've done it many times in the past. It's never particularly easy. The objectives of each ownership structure are a little bit different from one another. So maybe talk a little bit about that transition that we went through a number of years ago, and what you see as the benefits of now working under a private equity ownership structure like ours relative to what maybe you had before with the early VC investors.
So first of all, maybe I'll start with why initially we chose to partner with you guys. So back when we made the deal, we were coming out of COVID. The business was doing very well. And we got a lot of inbound offers. And at that time, we were already in the company for 7 years, and it made sense for us. We felt like it's good to entertain those offers and listen to what people have to offer. And the idea of transitioning to a PE was especially appealing to us because we still knew that the company has huge potential and can grow much more, and it didn't feel like the time to stop. And getting back to the last part of your question, that I think that is important for other entrepreneurs that are considering a move like that, I actually feel that working with a PE or Thoma Bravo specifically, because this is my experience, I'm more aligned with the board and the fund than I was with the venture capital investors, because for the simple fact that the level, everyone wants the same thing for this company to succeed. And it's not like there are 10 companies where one needs to succeed, which is the model with VCs. So I know that although everyone always wants the company to succeed, everyone is aligned on the level of risk versus expectation for your specific company. And this is something that has constantly been bothering me, interacting with the previous boards and investors. And also the fact that there is one owner that is driving and making all the decisions removes a lot of noise and conflicts from the process as well.
Right. We don't have the so-called power rule in our portfolio. Every one of our investments is equally important and gets a considerable amount of our attention. And so you're exactly right. And by the way, I think it's important to note that when you and Moshe and Gil did the deal, each of you rolled a meaningful amount of the proceeds of the deal into the Thoma Bravo transaction, which equated to a meaningful large chunk of your personal net worth. And, which we genuinely appreciated and we saw as a sign of commitment to the journey ahead. And, we think is a symbol of a committed, strong team that really wants to build something special with us. I want to hit on culture really quick because, so much has been said and written about the success of the Israeli technology ecosystem over the last 2+ decades and all the ingredients that go into making it successful. And I'll just, as a quick anecdote, after we made the investment, about 9 months later, we flew out to Israel. Adam, you remember this really well. And we were so well received. The team there was incredibly warm, generous with their time. We had a great time visiting the office, spending time with the employees, spending time in Tel Aviv. We did a trip to Jerusalem, which was fantastic. So we really got to experience the company culture and Israeli culture more broadly. And it was testament to how special of a company we invested in. That was in 2022. Fast forward to October 2023. We all know what happened on October 7th of that year. And then Alex joins a month later. And now the world is completely different. And so maybe either of you can talk to that experience, living through that experience, and keeping the company focused, keeping that culture as special and unique as it was prior to that event, and how that's evolved over the last now, year and a half.
Yeah, I'll start, and I think Adam has played a tremendous role in that. But I did start a month after, but I signed my offer October 5th, and then October 7th happened. And, we've all been through a lot of challenges and upheaval and COVID and disruption in businesses and business downturns and et cetera. This was different. And it was different because it was personal. Every employee was impacted by it, not only the folks that were in Israel, but all of us who cared about our colleagues and teammates in Tel Aviv. And I didn't know really what to expect. And to your point, I've been an admirer of Israeli technology companies, and you can go down the list of just, the $1 billion plus success stories. And so I was always engaged and impressed with the quality of the engineering talent, and had never really run an Israeli development team before. And so I didn't know what to expect and was really excited about doing that. And so when the war happened, Adam jumped right in. And for folks that don't know, there's, everyone is on reserve duty. And so immediately as people were called up, we lost, probably 15 people that went literally to the front lines. And what keeps inspiring me daily is the grit, the determination, and the attitude that every single employee has, in spite of the challenges that they face on a daily basis. And it was my, I think, third day, and I was no surprise to anyone having some computer problems. And I couldn't get my Zoom working. Google was a problem. And so they said, well, why don't you talk to Dennis? And Dennis is our CIO, head of IT. And I said, that'd be great. So set up a call. I come on a screen and there's a black screen. And I'm like looking around. I'm like, where's Dennis? He literally pulls like a poncho over and shows what's behind him. And I said, Dennis, where are you? And he said, I'm on the front lines and Lebanon is right there. And he points. Obviously, I was embarrassed that I was taking him off this. And he said, no, don't be embarrassed. This is what we do, because what are we going to do? We fight for 12 hours. We're on front lines, and then we have 12 hours off, and we're going to sit and just. And so he introduced me to other professionals that were fighting, but that were IT for other companies within Israel. And that was really my first experience. And so we didn't miss a delivery cycle. We didn't miss any deliverables or KPIs during that time, even with all of the challenges that were facing the employees there. And every day they come in with a spirit, they come in with a grit and a determination and a positive attitude. And candidly, I think they focus on what matters. One of our core values is focusing on what matters. And they do. They don't get built up in gossip or innuendo. They just go to work, and they do it with enthusiasm and a perspective that I think is great for all of us. And so culturally, we take a lot from that, and we get a lot of inspiration from the team and what they're doing. And to throw it to Adam, that starts with Adam. Adam's leadership and what he's done for the company, but also for the team there, is remarkable. And I'll let him share some of his thoughts.
Thanks, Alex. So October 7th was really a disruptive a day. It's not something that anyone could just shrug and go back to work. And even after we got things under control, as Alex said, we had a lot of people doing military service from the company. Almost every family had some friend or family member that was at the front lines. And it was very difficult to focus on work when what everyone really wanted to do was just go and help. Go and fight, go and help the soldiers, go and help the families of the soldiers in reserve duty, get food over there, help in any way possible. And this was one challenge that we had. The second challenge was to communicate what's going on to the rest of the company and to the board. Because it was very important, at least for me as a manager, to make sure that you know that things are under control and that work is getting done, and that the company didn't come to a halt because of that. So the two important things that were done was, first, clearly communicate what's going on to the board and the entire company, in town halls or letters or emails that I've sent to everyone. That was very important. The second one was to make sure the company actively contributes and spends time and money and effort to help whatever it is that's going on in Israel, and let the employees know so they feel that the company is doing their part and they can focus on work. So, they will keep their job, the Israeli economy will continue to thrive, etc. So those were two very important things that were done and helped us overcome this.
That's incredible, Adam. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And guys, thank you for doing this. It's a joy to work with both of you. Adam, thank you for trusting us with your company, 4 years ago. It's a joy to get to work with you and learn from you. I've probably learned more about building enterprise software from you than I have from almost anybody. And so I really appreciate, all that you've done for us and in our partnership. And I know the journey continues, and it's going to be a great one. And Alex, thank you for joining us on this journey. And, we were very lucky to get you. You've instituted a lot of amazing changes in the business so far, and I know that'll only continue. I have a ton of fun working with you. Really appreciate the partnership.
My pleasure. Love it.
Thank you, Carl.
Huge thanks to Alex and Adam for coming on today. If you like this episode, be sure to watch our next week's episode of Beyond the Deal, our mini-series where we get to ask them literally anything. I'm Carl Press. Thanks for joining.